Hey there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a story from Aden that, well, it really reveals the raw power of currency fluctuations, maybe the darker side of market manipulation, and the devastating human cost when a nation's financial system really veers off course. Our mission today is to kind of peel back the layers of a recent pretty dramatic event where the Yemeni rial took this unexpected and precipitous drop against the Saudi rial. We'll be sifting through reports, expert opinions, and honestly some very serious accusations to try and understand what really happened.
Indeed. And we've looked at insights from economic experts, local news channels, public reactions too, to try and bring you a comprehensive picture. This isn't just about the economics, the mechanics of it. It's really about the very trust ordinary people place in their financial system, their ability to feed their families, and just the stability of their daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely. To really get the magnitude, just imagine waking up one morning to find the value of your money suddenly slashed, almost overnight. That's pretty much the shock people in Aden faced over a recent weekend. It led to widespread confusion, panic, and significant losses for many. So let's start by setting the scene, this sudden kind of mysterious drop in the Yemeni rial. The initial reports were actually quite confusing, weren't they? Some outlets almost framed it as an improvement in the local currency. But the reality was far from that. What actually happened was a rapid and steep decline in the value of foreign currency, specifically the Saudi rial against the Yemeni rial, which means your Yemeni rials were suddenly worth less when you tried to buy anything foreign or even just exchange money for everyday needs. To give you a clearer picture, the Saudi rial, which typically traded around 425 to 428 Yemeni rials, reportedly plummeted. We're talking as low as 250 Yemeni rial. And in some extreme cases, reports mention even 200 or 225 YER. That's just a dramatic fall.
It really is. And such rapid, unexplained fluctuations are highly unusual without clear, strong economic indicators. Something major usually has to happen. So this immediately raises a critical question. What forces could possibly drive such a dramatic and swift shift in currency value, seemingly out of nowhere?
And as you can imagine, the public reaction was, well, pure panic. People rushed to exchange shops, desperate to understand what was going on, leading to just widespread confusion. Economic expert Dr. Mohammed Al-Qasadi, for example, described this perfectly as a kind of theory of panic and herd theory playing out in real time. But the question isn't just what happened, but why.
Right. And that's where the reports start to diverge a bit, offering a few different theories to explain this sudden economic whiplash. So what were people thinking? Was this just collective panic taking over? Dr. Al-Qasadi offers a pretty compelling explanation for those initial hours, doesn't he? He does, yeah. He framed it as a classic theory of panic and herd theory situation. People weren't acting on official announcements because, frankly, there weren't any. Instead, they rushed to convert their foreign currency, mostly Saudi rials, into Yemeni rials based purely on rumors and fear. What's also crucial, and he pointed this out, is that there was a noticeable scarcity of the national currency, the Yemeni rial, in exchange shocks. And this apparently started appearing from the previous Thursday. Dr. Al-Qasadi was very clear. There were no economic indicators or political decisions to justify this sudden shift. He labeled it purely speculative trading and rumors.
Okay, so that's one perspective, driven by psychology, maybe logistics like currency scarcity. But Shashaf News, for instance, paints a much more deliberate, calculated picture. They outline what they provocatively call the trick of the three virtuous, a name, as you'll hear, that seems pretty heavy with irony. And these big exchangers, as Shashaf News calls them, what was their alleged playbook? Who are they targeting with this trick?
Right. Well, according to that report, this alleged scheme was orchestrated by three unnamed big exchangers or big money changers in Aden. And their targets were apparently very specific. Soldiers receiving their salaries in Saudi rials, and also expatriates' families receiving remittances. The timing was key end of the month. That's when school fees, rent, other essential expenses are due, making these individuals sort of forced to exchange their foreign currency, regardless of the rate.
So calculated strategic timing then.
Yeah.
The scheme allegedly kicked off on a Thursday, ran through Sunday, cleverly hitting the weekend when the official banks are closed. Can you maybe detail the tactics they supposedly used to pull this off?
Yeah, the report suggests a few things. They apparently used brokers or middlemen to inject Saudi rials and dollars into the market. This creates an illusion, right? An illusion of abundant foreign currency supply. But at the same time, they allegedly limited the supply of Yemeni rials, funneling it only to specific allied exchangers. And this was combined with spreading rumors, maybe leveraging some journalists and activists, perhaps unintentionally, to amplify the panic, making people believe the Yemeni rial was going to keep getting stronger and stronger.
So create a false sense of supply for foreign currency, restrict the local currency, and whip up a frenzy with rumors. And the outcome.
Yeah.
How did this play out for the average person caught in the middle?
The outcome, according to these reports, was devastating. You had citizens, including soldiers, rushing to exchange their Saudi riyals for Yemeni riyals at these drastically reduced rates. We're talking going from maybe 380, 370 YER per Saudi riyal down to 250, 270 YER, sometimes even lower, as you said. It's almost like a stock market scam, but in reverse, you know? Instead of artificially inflating prices to lure buyers, they allegedly artificially depressed the currency's value, forcing people to sell their valuable foreign cash for a fraction of its real worth.
Wow. The sheer audacity, if true, of the alleged coordination and that psychological manipulation, it's striking. Especially how it seems to have engineered this artificial supply-demand imbalance. It really makes you wonder about the mechanisms available, or maybe not available, to protect vulnerable populations from schemes like this, especially when they're so reliant on these exchanges just for daily survival. And with all this chaos unfolding, all eyes naturally turn towards the central bank. What was their role in this? Or maybe their lack of a role. Reports from Yemen Shabab TV and Al Maraya TV offer a pretty critical perspective here. The Central Bank of Yemen, the CBY, is normally responsible for regulating currency, maintaining stability. That's their job. But critics point to a specific, loophole maybe, in a CBY bulletin. Well, the CBY issued official exchange rates 425 for buying, 428 for selling Saudi riyals. It included this crucial little clause. It is permissible to buy and sell for less than the specified price. Okay, but is it really a loophole? Or just a flexibility clause that was maybe catastrophically exploited in this instance? How can a detail like permissible to buy and sell for less become such an Achilles heel?
I think it's the latter, and it perfectly illustrates how seemingly benign language and regulation, if you combine it with specific market conditions and, well, unscrupulous actors, can be weaponized. A clause like that, when combined with strategic timing like the weekend closure and maybe a lack of clear immediate oversight, can be exploited with devastating effects. It allows manipulators to operate sort of within the letter of the law while completely violating its spirit.
And making matters even more chaotic, these forged documents started circulating during this time. One apparently suggested the CBY had lowered the Saudi rial rate to 320 or 330 Yemeni riyals. Another, even more drastic, claimed the rate had dropped to that 200 and 225 YR per SAR range.
Yeah.
Or maybe 830, 850 YR per USD. These unofficial misleading documents just fueled the panic even more. And what about the CBY's actual actions or lack thereof right at the height of the crisis?
Well, what's particularly notable and what drew a lot of criticism was the CBY's initial suspicious silence. This was mainly on Saturday and Sunday, right when things were escalating. And this raises an important question, doesn't it? Why the silence from the very institution tasked with maintaining currency stability, especially during a public holiday when markets are naturally more susceptible to unofficial information and rumor? That absence of a clear, authoritative voice at such a critical moment, it can significantly erode public trust.
Yeah, and the CBY's eventual response was, well, belated. A statement came out late Sunday evening denying that 225-year SAR forged document, but only after the main damage was done. And controversially, it declared all foreign currency purchased by banks and exchange companies during those two chaotic days was now effectively property of the central bank, and it had to be returned at the original purchase prices. Adding to the confusion, a later CBY meeting reportedly expressed satisfaction with the so-called improvement in the national currency, despite, as you said, no real economic basis for it. Okay, so this, unsurprisingly, led to some really serious accusations. Accusations of CBY complicity, or at the very least, serious negligence. Critics allege that the CBY might have even been a partner in the whole scheme, potentially benefiting by acquiring all that foreign currency at artificially low prices. And interestingly, the CBY didn't announce any punitive measures against any exchange shops, even though there were significant accusations flying around against specific major players. Plus, many transactions reportedly occurred outside the official banking network, making it look more like a black market operation than a regulated exchange.
Exactly, and the severe erosion of trust here is palpable. When a central bank, which is supposed to be the pillar of financial stability, is perceived as being complicit or even just absent when needed, it can have really long-lasting negative impacts on public confidence and just general economic behavior. People start to question the very foundation of their financial system.
And the human impact. I mean, this deep dive into currency chaos was immediate and just devastating. especially for those least able to afford it. When you read about these individual losses, people losing maybe 150,000 Yemeni riyals for every 1,000 Saudi riyals they exchanged, it's not just a statistic, is it? That's someone's rent money gone. Someone's child's school fees just vanished into thin air.
Absolutely. This wasn't some abstract market movement happening on a screen somewhere. This was a direct hit to the economic security of ordinary families. Some lost nearly a third of their money in a weekend. The desperation must have been palpable. And unfortunately, it seems it was amplified, perhaps unintentionally, by some journalists and activists, like Fatih Al-Azraq was mentioned, who advised people to quickly sell their foreign currency, likely adding to the panic.
Unsurprisingly, the public reaction was swift and angry. Protests erupted in Aden. You had citizens out there demanding their stolen money be returned. Exchange shops reportedly then closed their doors in response to these protests, which
Yeah.
probably just added to the sense of injustice and chaos.
So stepping back, what are the broader lessons here? From this currency fluctuation event in Aden, it's a really stark illustration of how rapidly an economy can be destabilized, even without those traditional economic indicators flashing red. It really shows the power of human behavior, amplified by rumor and fear.
Yeah, and it powerfully demonstrates that dangerous interplay, doesn't it? Panic, disinformation, especially with those forged documents floating around, and then these allegations of market manipulation. That herd mentality, driven by fear and rumor, can be an incredibly powerful destructive force. It just overrides rational decision-making, particularly when reliable information is scarce or delayed.
hmm And this isn't just a Yemeni issue, right? It's a microcosm, really, highlighting the critical importance of transparent, swift, and decisive action from financial authorities everywhere. When a central bank is silent or its actions seem ambiguous, it creates this vacuum. And that vacuum can be exploited by unscrupulous actors, leading to real harm for everyday people. And critically, as we saw here, this incident caused a severe erosion of public trust, trust in the currency market itself, and trust in the regulatory institutions. Reports mention the CBY's reputation had apparently improved recently, only to take a nosedive after this event. Trust is such a fragile thing, and once it's lost, it's incredibly difficult to regain.
Absolutely. And for you listening, you might not be dealing directly with the Yemeni rial, but understanding these dynamics helps us all appreciate that delicate balance, right? The balance of trust, information, and regulation that underpins stable financial systems everywhere. When information gets manipulated, or authorities are silent or slow, everyone becomes vulnerable.
And this event really underscores the vulnerability of ordinary people, particularly those maybe with limited financial literacy or just urgent needs that force their hand. They become prime targets for sophisticated market manipulations and often suffer the most severe consequences.
And there you have it, a truly insightful, maybe sobering deep dive into the complex and often murky world of currency markets, and crucially, the human element within it all. The situation in Aden is just a powerful reminder of how quickly trust can be lost and how crucial clear, consistent leadership is in times of economic uncertainty.
Indeed. The reports really emphasize the need for transparency, for accountability, and for better protection of citizens from these kinds of predatory practices. The big question remains, though, how will these losses actually be addressed? And what concrete steps will be taken to restore confidence in the financial system and its regulators moving forward?
And maybe for you, our listener, this deep dive sparks a provocative thought. In this world just awash with information, how do you actually discern reliable financial guidance? And what is the true cost, not just financially, but socially, when market stability is compromised, whether it's by deliberate intent or just inaction? Something to ponder, perhaps, until our next deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this exploration has given you a clearer understanding of these complex events. Until next time, stay curious.